There's a kind of silence that doesn't just fill a room, it rearranges it. That's what I remember most about that morning. The quiet. It was early, dark outside. She was in the shower, humming something tuneless, off-key, but soft. I was half awake, scrolling through the news, trying to force my brain into motion before coffee. And then, without any real thought, I opened her cycle tracking app. We used to talk about it. Not often, but enough. It just helps me feel safe, she'd say, especially before we started trying last year. I don't want to make a mistake with the days. I remember how carefully she'd log every cramp, every headache, every shift in mood. It was her ritual. She never skipped. But that morning, the screen was blank. No logs, no notes, no symptoms, nothing. It was like she'd never used the app at all. At first, I assumed it was a glitch. I tapped around, refreshed, even checked the settings. Then I looked at the last login, 7 days ago, and I knew, really knew, something was wrong. Because 7 days ago was the last time she cried in front of me. Curled up on the couch, one arm over her eyes, whispering she didn't know what was wrong with her body lately. Her period had come early, and she said it felt off. That was the word she used. Off. Not painful. Not heavy. Just wrong. I remember bringing her a blanket. She didn't look up when I set it on her lap. I remember asking if she wanted to log it, and she mumbled, already did. But she hadn't. It was a lie, or something close enough to one that I felt my stomach twist now, phone still warm in my hand. 7 days. That meant she hadn't touched the app since that night. And now, everything was gone. When she came out of the shower, wrapped in a towel, her hair damp and skin flushed, I asked, "Did your app update or something? It looks like all your cycle stuff got wiped." She blinked. A little too long. "Oh, no. I disabled it." "Disabled it?" "Yeah. I decided I don't want to track anymore." She said it like someone changing lunch orders. Casual. Dismissive. "But you always, eh?" "I know." She rubbed her neck. It just started stressing me out. Counting days. Being that. Hyper-aware. It's exhausting. I nodded. Tried to act like that made sense. But my brain was already ticking. Because just 2 weeks ago, she told me she liked knowing exactly where she was in her cycle. Because she didn't want to make a mistake. Her words. Her exact words. And now? She'd wiped it. Deleted everything. There was no mistake. There was something she didn't want remembered. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because of what she said, but how she said it. The tone. The ease. Like she'd rehearsed it. I lay there beside her, staring at the ceiling, counting back the days. She was late once. Last month. Just by a day or two. But I remember the way she hovered in the bathroom that morning, the way she stayed in her robe for hours, refusing coffee, too quiet. She said it was hormones. The week after, she took her phone into every room with her. Never left it on the counter. I remember thinking it was weird, but I let it go. Now I wasn't so sure. 3 nights ago, I found a receipt in the trash. Small, white, folded tight. I wouldn't have looked if it hadn't had her name on it. It was for a ride share to a women's health clinic across town. She said she went to yoga that day. Same time. Same window. I didn't say anything. What would I say? I was starting to feel like I was losing my grip on the edges of things. Reality tilting just slightly. Not enough to fall, just enough to slide. It was subtle. A memory that didn't align. A smile that lasted too long. A shift in scent, like she'd changed shampoo without telling me, even though she never did. Then there was her phone background. She'd had a photo of us at the lake house for over a year. One of the few she actually liked of herself. I noticed it was gone now, replaced by a stock photo of a mountain sunrise. It wasn't the kind of thing you'd notice unless you were looking. But I was. I was looking at everything now. That's when the insomnia began. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. and find her phone face down on the nightstand, screen smudged. I'd hear her typing in the bathroom. Not always, but often. Whispering. Once I knocked, asking if she was okay, and she said she'd dropped her toothbrush. When I asked her the next morning if anything was wrong, just a general, open-ended kind of question, she smiled and said, "Nope." Why? I told her I'd had a weird dream about her being distant, that I dreamt she wasn't telling me something. She laughed. "Wow," she said. "That's dramatic." And maybe it was. Or maybe dreams just don't lie the way people do. The next morning, I went through her trash. Not because I wanted to. Because I had to. She'd left for work early, and I sat at the kitchen table staring at her empty mug, still faintly stained with coffee and lipstick. It was the same mug she used every morning, the one with the chipped rim she refused to throw out. She always placed it just to the left of the sink. Always. But this morning, it was on the right. That was the moment I realized I couldn't pretend anymore. I pulled on gloves from under the sink and dug through the small silver can beneath the counter. It was mostly crumpled napkins and food packaging. Then I found it, another receipt. This one was folded and slightly damp, but the text was clear. Pharmacy. Plan B. Bought 5 days ago. Same day she told me she was just running errands. I stared at the little square of thermal paper like it might explain itself. It didn't. No prescription. No explanation. Just a timestamp. 3:41 p.m. 5 days ago. I was at the office late. I remember because I called her around 4:30, asked if she wanted anything for dinner. She said she already ate. Her voice sounded warm. She even joked about craving pickles. I didn't question it. Now I wish I had. I stood in the kitchen, the smell of last night's dinner still faint in the air, and felt something in my chest shift. Not a snap. Not yet. But a bend. A quiet warping, like a tree under too much wind. I didn't want to assume anything, but I also didn't want to lie to myself anymore. That night, I watched her more closely. She curled into me on the couch like nothing had changed. I watched the way her fingers moved calm, soft. I listened to the way she laughed at the sitcom we always watched, a little too loud. I caught her glancing at her phone 3 times in 5 minutes. I started asking questions. Nothing direct. Not yet. Just little things. How was your day? She shrugged. Busy. Work stuff. Yeah. A client meeting ran late. But I knew her meeting ended at 2. I saw her calendar. It syncs to our shared device. I checked it while pretending to queue up the show. Want to do something this weekend? I asked. She hesitated. Actually, I might need Saturday for myself. For what? I don't know. Just time. Just time. That's what you say when you don't want to say anything at all. I nodded. I smiled. I let it go. Then I waited until she was asleep and went into the guest room to think. I stared at the receipts. I lined them up on the desk like evidence. The Plan B. The clinic rideshare. Her cycle app. Wiped clean. All these tiny omissions, stacking like bricks around me. She wasn't clumsy. She was careful. She didn't forget to log her cycle, she deleted it. She didn't miss a period, she erased it. Something had happened that week. Something she wanted to unwrite. And now, Saturday. The first weekend in months she didn't want me near her. I checked her location history. We used to share it. Not out of suspicion, just for convenience. She never turned it off. Until now. Last update, 2 days ago. She disabled it. I stared at the blank space where her pin used to be on the map. There was a name for this kind of silence. It wasn't distance. It was strategy. I wasn't paranoid. I was observant. There's a difference. Still, I needed to be sure. So on Friday night, after she fell asleep, I carefully opened her laptop. She always kept it in the living room, half closed, charging by the wall. I'd seen her log into it 100 times. I knew the password. Our wedding anniversary, typed backwards. It worked. I told myself I'd just check the browser. Just enough to quiet the noise in my head. Just enough to breathe. But what I found didn't quiet anything. There were no tabs open, no saved logins. Even her search history was wiped. But the cleaning was too clean. A full browser reset. Cookies. Cache. Even the autofill settings. No one does that by accident. Then I noticed something odd. A second browser. She downloaded a private browser. A low-profile one I'd never seen her use before. I opened it, and this time, she hadn't been careful. There were a few tabs still open, mostly articles about fertility, hormone windows, and one that made my blood turn cold. How to tell if you're still pregnant after Plan B. It was dated 4 days ago. I closed the lid slowly, sat back, tried to breathe. My wife had taken emergency contraception 5 days ago. She searched for answers about it the day after. She deleted her cycle logs, turned off her location, told me she needed time. And now, this part hit hardest. She hadn't told me a word. Not even a lie that felt like truth. Just silence. Saturday came like a dare. She was dressed before I even opened my eyes. Jeans, sweater, hair tied back, no perfume. She leaned over, kissed my forehead like we hadn't been circling a silent war all week, and said, "Don't wait up. Going far." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Just need a reset. Mental health day." I nodded, played dumb, watched her zip her bag, the same one she used for overnights. Not work trips, those had a suitcase. This was the bag she used when she went to see her sister. Or so she always said. She left at 8:06 a.m. I waited until 8:12 before grabbing my keys. It's strange, the things you start noticing when trust cracks. The way she didn't say, "I love you." The way she looked at her reflection before walking out the door, not to fix anything, just to look. Like she needed to see who she was about to become. I tailed her from 2 cars back. It wasn't hard. She never checked her mirrors. Never expected me to follow. The route she took surprised me, past the freeway, then onto smaller streets. Toward the edge of town. Not her sister's neighborhood. She parked in front of a white house with ivy up the walls and a red door. I didn't recognize it. She got out slowly, checked her phone, then walked up the steps and rang the bell. The door opened fast. He stood there barefoot, shirt half-buttoned. Tall, dark hair. I couldn't see his face clearly from the street, but I saw the way he smiled. Like he'd been waiting for her. She didn't hesitate. She stepped inside. The door shut. I didn't move for a long time. The car felt suddenly too small. The air thick. My heart beat like a slow drum, steady but loud. I should have felt fury. I expected it. But what came instead was cold. Like a frost creeping in from my fingertips. She didn't just lie. She made me doubt myself first. That was the part one couldn't forgive. I didn't go home. I didn't even follow up. I just drove. One loop around the block. Then another. I watched the front door until my eyes hurt. Until I hated that red paint more than I hated her silence. Around noon, I parked 2 blocks away and walked to a coffee shop. Sat by the window. Ordered nothing. And for the first time, I let myself think it. Maybe she's pregnant. Not with mine. She was never reckless. If anything, she was obsessive about timing. So if she took Plan B, if she searched for answers about it, then something happened. Someone inside that red-doored house. And if she was trying to erase it, she'd need to cover every trace. The app, the history, the location logs, even me. She wasn't just hiding a mistake. She was trying to rewrite reality. I stayed out until evening. When I came home, her car was already in the driveway. Lights on. TV murmuring in the living room. She was curled under a blanket, a bowl of popcorn in her lap. "Hey," she said, like nothing had happened. "You were out all day. So were you." She gave a small smile. "Needed it. I feel a lot better." "Where'd you go?" "Spa. Then the bookstore. I got you something." She held up a paperback. One I'd mentioned in passing months ago. It was strategic. Too precise. Like a surgeon stitching flesh over a wound she didn't want me to see. Thanks, I said, and sat beside her. I watched her more than the TV. The way she leaned into me. The way she kissed my neck. Too much, too soon. Overcorrection. She didn't smell like the spa. She didn't smell like the bookstore either. She smelled like someone else's cologne. She smelled like guilt, masked in routine. That night, she reached for me in bed. The first time in weeks. Her hands urgent. Her breath shaky. And I let her. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to see how far she'd go to sell the lie. After, she lay against me, whispering that she missed this. This? I asked, my voice low. Us. I didn't answer. She drifted to sleep with her head on my chest, as if forgiveness could be given through silence. I stared at the ceiling again, but this time I wasn't counting days. I was building a timeline. Last cycle, deleted. Emergency pill, bought. Location tracking, disabled. New address, discovered. This wasn't impulsive. It was orchestrated. And she thought she'd won. She thought I'd accept the silence, the half-truths, the sudden affection as proof that nothing was wrong. But I wasn't that man anymore. The next morning, while she showered, I went back to her phone. Not the app this time, her photos. Most were clean. Screenshots of recipes. Selfies. A few save quotes. But one folder caught my eye. Recently deleted. She'd emptied it. Thought she had. But she didn't know about the backup sync. In the cloud, one image had survived. It was blurry, poorly lit, taken from inside a car. A street lamp reflected off the window. But I recognized the background. The ivy. The red door. The caption below it read, "One more time. Then I'm done." It was dated 10 days ago. I stared at the image until the water stopped running in the bathroom. She stepped out in a towel, smiling at me like nothing had changed. Coffee. I smiled back. Yeah, that'd be great. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I closed my eyes, but every time I drifted towards sleep, I'd see the red door. The man's silhouette. Her stepping over the threshold like she'd done it before. Like it was hers, too. She moved through Sunday like a woman reborn. Humming again, even while folding laundry. Asking what I wanted for dinner. Resting her chin on my shoulder while I typed. None of it felt real. It was like watching someone pretend to be human. By evening, I knew what I had to do. There was only one name I hadn't spoken in all this. Her friend, Mara. Not her closest, but long time enough that I knew she trusted her. Mara was sharp. Detached. One of those people who always saw more than she let on. She and I had never been particularly close, but once, just once, she'd pulled me aside during a party and said, "She loves you, but she lies to herself. Just don't stop paying attention." That was a year ago. I didn't understand what she meant until now. I found Mara on social media. Sent a message. "Hey, can we talk? I think you know what this is about." It was a risk, but I was past the point of caring how it looked. 30 minutes later, she replied, "Your place or mine?" We met at a coffee shop halfway between our apartments. Neutral ground. She arrived wearing sunglasses even though it was dusk. Hair tied back. No hello. No hug. Just sat down, crossed her arms, and said, "How much do you already know?" Enough to know something happened 10 days ago. And maybe again yesterday. She exhaled. "Then you probably know about him." The red door. The man who opened it. Mara took off her sunglasses. Her eyes looked tired. "His name's Colin." The name hit like a dull blade. No sharp edge, just weight. Familiar. I didn't know why. They dated in college, she said. Brief. Messy. She cut him off after he started seeing someone else. But he came back into her life a few months ago. How? She ran into him at some tech conference. Claimed it was just drinks. But then she started making excuses to be in that area again. You weren't supposed to find out. That's the part she feared most. Why? Mara hesitated. Because, she said quietly, she thinks she might be pregnant. The words settled between us like ash. Still, she told me she thought she was late. Then early. Then late again. Honestly, she's been spiraling. I told her to go to the doctor. She won't. Says she doesn't want to know. So she took the pill. Too late, probably. She didn't even tell him. Colin, I mean, he thinks she's still on birth control. My hands curled into fists under the table. She told you all this? Mara nodded. I think she wanted someone to judge her. Someone to confirm she was still a good person. Is she? She looked at me, and for once, didn't flinch. I don't think she knows anymore. I sat back. The noise of the cafe faded behind the rush in my ears. She's going to erase it all, I said. She's already started, Mara replied. That night, I found her asleep on the couch, curled in a blanket she never used. A movie flickered silently on the screen, her mouth slightly open, her hand resting on her stomach like instinct. I watched her for a long time. Then I picked up her phone. There was one more folder I hadn't checked. Notes. Most were blank. Some were to-do lists, recipes, journal fragments. But there was one note, locked behind a passcode. I tried her birthday, our wedding date, her mom's name. Nothing. I stared at the phone. Then I remembered. She once told me she only uses one code when she needs to bury something. I typed it in. The date of her miscarriage. 2 years ago. It opened. Inside was a list of names. Not contacts, just names. At the top was Colin. Underneath. Week 5. Didn't feel anything? No blood yet. Do I tell him? What if he thinks I did it on purpose? What if it was on purpose? Then, near the bottom. Jacob doesn't know. Can't know. If I lose this one too, I won't forgive myself. But I also won't keep it. Not if it's not his. I stared at that sentence until my eyes burned. It wasn't just betrayal. It was identity theft. She'd taken who I thought I was and repurposed it. Reassigned it. I wasn't a husband. I was a placeholder. A buffer against a version of her life she didn't want to face. That night, I couldn't speak to her. But in the morning, I asked, "Do you want kids?" She blinked. What? In general. Still, do you want children? She paused, reading my face, then smiled softly. Of course. Someday. Even if it's complicated? Especially then, she said, and kissed my forehead. Why are you asking? Just wondering. She pulled on her jacket and grabbed her keys. I love you, you know, she said. And then she left. 2 days passed. I didn't confront her. Not directly. I wanted to see what she'd do next. Sometimes the worst thing you can give a liar is silence. It leaves them room to improvise. She started leaving her phone out again, reinstalling little habits she had erased weeks ago, letting me see her unlock the Cycle app she'd re-downloaded, now with fresh logs. All new, all convenient. The entries were clean, too clean. The kind of precision that didn't come from memory, but from reconstruction. She logged a period. A week ago, I watched her type it in like it was a grocery list. She even glanced up to see if I was watching. I gave her nothing. Let her keep building her version of the story. Because I was building mine. I took the names from her locked note and ran a quiet search. Colin was first. No social media presence. But his name was tied to an LLC. A boutique web consulting firm, 2 towns over. I called the listed number. A woman answered. Assistant, maybe. I'm looking for Colin Baird, I said. A pause. He's in a meeting. Can I take a message? Just tell him Jacob wants to talk. He'll know what it's about. I didn't leave a number. 2 hours later, I got a text from an unknown number. One word. When? I replied, tomorrow. 8 p.m. Back lot of the Ridgeway Hotel. I picked the place carefully. Not for the drama, but because it had cameras and a view of the red-doored house from the top level of the parking deck. I needed leverage. He showed up early. Jeans, hoodie, ball cap pulled low. I recognized him immediately from the window. Same build, same posture. I parked 3 rows behind him, engine running. He leaned on the hood of his car, looking bored. Not anxious. Not guilty. Like he didn't know yet how deep he was in it. I stepped out, walked toward him. He didn't smile. Didn't frown. Just nodded. "You're Jacob," he said. "And you're Colin." He looked away. "This about her? You tell me." He ran a hand over his jaw. "She said you'd figure it out eventually." That stopped me. "She said that?" He nodded. "Back when it was still just texts. She always talked like she was rehearsing something. Never really in the moment, you know?" I didn't reply. I didn't know she was married. "Not until last month," he said. "You're lying." "No." He looked at me, and for once I saw it. The confusion. "She told me she was separated. Living with you." "Yeah, but just for finances." Said it was complicated. I almost laughed. "And the pregnancy?" He stiffened. "That I didn't know about until 2 weeks ago. She texted me. Said it might have happened. That she was scared. I offered to meet her. Talk it out. But she ghosted me." "When did she last contact you?" 5 days ago. She told me not to reach out again. Said she'd handled it." I stared at him. "You didn't ask what that meant?" "Of course I did," he said, frustrated now. "But she blocked me the next day. I figured I don't know, made her choice." I let the silence settle between us. Then I said, "She took Plan B." His face fell. "Jesus." Then she logged a fake period. Then she smiled at me and made pasta like everything was fine. He rubbed his temples. "What do you want from me?" I pulled out my phone. Showed him the photo, the one with the ivy, the red door, the timestamp. Her standing outside his house. He paled. "You were watching?" I needed proof. Of what? That she was still lying. He looked at the photo, then back at me. "You're not here to fight, are you?" "No." "What then?" "Insurance." I handed him an envelope. Inside were printouts, screenshots of messages, a copy of the receipt, a timeline. All clean. All real. "If she tries to spin this," I said, "I want someone else who saw the same version of her." He nodded slowly. "You're planning something." I smiled. "I'm preparing something." He looked at me a long time before speaking again. "She told me once that you were the safest person she'd ever met," he said. She was wrong. When I got home, she was in bed already, pretending to sleep. I could tell from her breathing. Too regular. Too still. I sat on the edge of the mattress and said nothing. Just waited. Eventually, she stirred. "What time is it?" "Late." She stretched, reached for me. I let her hand rest on mine. Then I whispered, "I saw Colin." Stillness. Then, softly, "What?" "I saw him. Spoke to him." Her fingers tensed. "You don't have to lie anymore," I said. "He knows everything. I know everything." She sat up slowly, eyes glassy. "I don't." "Don't," I said. Quiet. Final. "I didn't mean." "You meant to erase it," I said. "That's the part that matters. You meant to leave me in the dark. You just didn't clean deep enough." She covered her face. Silent. I didn't move. "Finally," I said, "you're not the person I thought you were." "I know." I stood. She reached out, but I stepped back. "You had a choice," I said. "You could have told the truth when it was small. But you buried it, layer by layer. Until I wasn't your husband, I was just an obstacle." She started crying then. Quiet, broken sobs into the pillow. And I walked out of the room. I didn't sleep that night either. Not from rage. Not from grief. Just from clarity. Some betrayals are loud, screaming matches, slammed doors, public exits. But this wasn't that. This was quiet, calculated, slow. And I wasn't going to scream. I was going to cut cleanly. By morning, I had a plan. She was already up, sitting at the kitchen table with her hands wrapped around a cup of tea she didn't drink. The steam had long since died. Her hair was tied back like she was bracing for something. She didn't look at me when I entered. "I need to say something," she said softly. I didn't speak. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I stared at her. That phrase again. I didn't mean. As if erasure was accidental. She looked up. Eyes red. I panicked. That night, it wasn't planned. I didn't even want to see him. He asked if we could talk. And I did. And then, you did it again, I interrupted. A week later. She flinched. I thought I was pregnant. I wasn't thinking clearly. No, I said. You were thinking very clearly. You took a pill. You deleted logs. You fabricated a cycle. You turned off your location. You did all of that with precision. She sat back like I'd struck her. I stepped closer. I could have forgiven the first lie, maybe even the second. But what you did after, that was a choice. Her voice cracked. I was scared. So was I. Every night I lay next to someone who was rewriting our life in silence. She shook her head. You don't understand. Then explain it. She opened her mouth. Closed it. Her hand went in her stomach again, unconscious, instinctual. That's when I said it. I spoke to Mara. She froze. She told me about the night you went to Collins. The texts. The second thoughts. The blocked number. I didn't ask her to. No. But you didn't lie to her the way you lied to me. You told her the truth. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I didn't want to lose everything. I looked at her then. Really looked. She was hollow. Not from guilt. From exhaustion. The kind that comes after carrying too many lies too far. I'm not going to scream, I said. I'm not going to break things. I'm not even going to ask why you kept coming home to me. She looked up, startled. Because I know the answer, I said. You wanted a place to hide. I walked to the hallway and came back with a manila envelope. Set it on the table in front of her. What is this? She asked. Your version of the truth, I said. Your browser history. Your note. Your erased logs. The receipt. The messages. All printed. All copied. She stared at it. Didn't touch it. I'm not sending it to your job. I'm not telling your parents. I'm not putting it online. I'm just giving it to you. So you understand that I saw all of you before I walked away. She looked up, lips trembling. You're leaving. I already did. She blinked, confused. I changed the lease 2 weeks ago. Rerouted my mail. This place, I glanced around. It's yours. And only yours. No shared rent. No split utilities. You don't even have to erase me anymore. Her hand shook as she reached for the envelope. I didn't stop her. I transferred my savings out yesterday, I added. Joint account's empty now. Don't worry, I didn't touch yours. Silence. Then she said, You're really not going to ruin me? No, I said. Because you'll do that yourself. Slowly. Quietly. Like you did us. She looked like she might break. But I didn't stay to watch. I walked to the door. Put on my coat. Before I opened it, I turned back one last time. You once told me you used that app because you didn't want to make a mistake with the days, I said. She nodded, barely breathing. I paused. You did. Then I left. It's been 3 months. I haven't heard from her. She didn't chase me. She didn't call. She didn't even send a message through Mara. I think some part of her respected how clean I made the break. Or maybe she was too ashamed. Or maybe, just maybe, she's still rewriting the story in her head, one safe little lie at a time. I don't really care. I live alone now, 2 cities over. A smaller place. Quieter. I sleep better. I keep my own calendar, my own locks. I don't ask people where they go when they leave for a reset. But I pay attention. To patterns. To tone. To silences that hang too long. I don't look for betrayal. But I recognize its shape now. And if it ever comes again, it won't catch me blind. Thanks for watching. If this story pulled you in, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the next confession. Until next time, take care and watch who you trust.